welcome, Douglas. Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Doug?
I can hear you now.
Awesome. Awesome. Welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Douglas is going to be one of 53 authors at the Festival of Books and Creativity at the
Wow.
June in Novi. I know we've got so many authors that'll be joining us.
That's all. That's amazing.
It's going to be a couple of people. So, Doug, you write fantasy. I love the hat, by the way.
Th-
That is awesome.
Thank you. It's a hint at the cosplay costume that I will be wearing for the event.
Oh, nice
Yeah.
costume.
Yeah. It's going to be basically I'm wearing the costume of one of the characters from my book. So,
Ah.
not a hero necessarily. It's one of the
Mm.
villains. So,
Oh.
Captain Clardustier, bounty hunter.
Ah. Now, is that your latest book or is that one of your other
That's
your
from my epic fantasy series, The Seeds of Hope.
Okay.
He's a skyship captain and bounty hunter.
Tell us all about you've got what, 5 books now?
I have, well, when you count, well, I've got 4 books um, when you count the coloring book. And I have a
Ah.
5th book in process that I hope to have ready by the end of this summer.
Okay.
So I don't think this book will be ready at June 29th, but Omega Falling is
Ooh.
the book that I'm working on. It's book 2 of
Mhm.
Rusty Bones, um,
Ah.
the Rusty Bones series, where he gets to go off to Las Vegas and have some adventures. And he's
Thus
not
the
particularly
Elvis
happy about it. He's not happy about it, as you can see. He's kind of grumpy.
Yes.
He didn't like the Elvis costume much, but so I'm the author of urban fantasy and epic fantasy.
Yep.
My urban fantasy series is the origins of Agent Rusty Bones, the FBI's first undead special agent. And
Undead.
undead, yeah, he starts out as a local police officer who joins a secret government program. They promise him extra training, extra money, and immortality, which he thinks is bullshit. And he, when he wakes up after being killed in the line of duty, and in his own highly modified body, he thinks that their idea of immortality was a little oversold,
Mm.
and he's not so happy about it. But so that's in the first book of the series is Omega Rising. Oops, gotta get there. We go. And
Okay.
and then Omega Falling is the long-awaited second book in the series.
So what are the other books that you have?
Sure. So I have The Seeds of Hope, which is my epic fantasy series. This is book 1, The Hunted Maiden,
Ah.
and this is book 2, The Seedling Song. And this series features 2 young people, Mouse and Seldy.
Mhm.
He is a aspiring musician and the lowest level crew member of a skyship, and he has the ability to hear the hidden theme songs of the people he meets.
Ooh.
When he hears their song, he can kind of figure out stuff about people. So he gets to figure out their intentions, or he might get snatches of their personal history or other types of things, and he can kind of figure out what they're like. Um, when she is Seldy is the is an acrobat, an animal trainer, and the only elf in a human circus, or at least she thinks she's an elf. She can talk to the animals, She is really kind of bubbly and effusive personality, super happy and living in her circus. When she gets kidnapped from the circus that she grew up in and taken on board the sky ship that he's working on, he discovers that she's the first person he's ever met with no song of her own, and he's got to help her find her song and get her magic back. And so, uh, and then there's a reason why she was kidnapped, and he's got to kind of figure out that plot a little bit and help her to escape the clutches of the people that have her. Captain Claude Dastier is one of the captors.
Ah,
So,
very cool. And you've
and
got a
then
coloring book.
yes, this is Selby's Circus Adventures. It is the coloring book featuring her life growing up in the circus, and it's got fancy, well, lots of cool illustrations
Okay.
and plus story element with each illustration kind of talking about her life growing up in the circus.
Ooh,
Yeah.
very neat.
Yeah.
So, are you an outliner where you're plotting everything, or are you more of a pantser?
I'm a complete and total pantser. When I sit down to try and outline a story, the only thing that I discover is exactly how the story's not going to go.
Oh,
I'm an anti outliner.
an anti outliner, no less. I love it. So, do you go back and do an outline afterwards? Do you have like a master list of characters between your stories?
I'm going to probably be developing a book Bible when I get back into working on the epic fantasy series. After Omega Falling's released, I'm going to work on the next book of that series, which is called The Guardian's Quest. I've
Okay.
already got like 30,000 words into it,
Oh.
but yeah, when I get down to sit down and write on it, I'm going to develop a book Bible of sorts that I can refer to because there's so many details.
Mhm. That well, especially when you get when you're continuing a series, how many books do you think you're gonna have in each of your series?
Well, the Agent Rusty Bones, I have one more book planned for after Omega Falling. It's called
Mm.
Bones Wolf, and it's
Oh,
based on the story of Beowulf.
ah,
It's a modern retelling of Beowulf.
okay.
Um, and then I don't have any more plans for stories after that just yet.
Mhm.
But then for the epic fantasy series, I know that there's going to be the Guardian's Quest, and there might be one or two more.
Are there any plans to go and write anything other than fantasy?
Uh, I'm thinking about it. The One of the great things that this event's gonna be is gonna be my first event after I retire from the day job.
Oh,
I mean, that's an announcement of sorts. Uh,
nice. Congrats.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm retiring from the day job on May 31st after 30 plus years.
Wow. And what is your day job?
I work for the Department of Homeland Security.
Ah,
A little bit of chaos going on.
just a little bit.
It's a good time to retire.
Well, especially with so many years in that. Can you tell us what you do for Homeland Security?
I'm a supervisor with U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, and
Okay.
we interview people for green cards and citizenship and that sort of thing.
Oh, that's got to be interesting.
It's very interesting.
So, any books coming out after you retire about some of your encounters
Potentially,
through the years?
probably not stories from my career per se, but
Okay.
there might be something where I explore some immigrant stories. You
Oh.
know, I've 30 some years of dealing with people and delving into their stories
Mm-hmm.
and hearing all sorts of stuff. And so I might be I might be doing some sort of collection of stories, or I might try and do fiction based on what I've heard.
Okay.
And so we'll see.
Yeah, I bet you see the good, the bad, and the ugly of
Yeah,
immigration.
there's a lot of really powerful stories, and I wish people in America in general knew that immigrants aren't the nameless, faceless people coming to steal jobs and trafficking cocaine or that sort of stuff. They're looking to make a better life for themselves and their families, and maybe they're escaping tyranny or
Hmm.
persecution or just economic poverty.
Mm.
So
Yeah, there's a lot of stories out there. That's for sure.
there are,
So you live in the Metro Detroit area.
yeah, South
So
Lyon.
South Lyon. Okay. So you are right at the border crossing then there of um Canada in Detroit then.
One of the few places where you go south to go into Canada from the U.S.
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah,
So do you go over to Canada much?
not much. No, I haven't been in a couple of decades, probably. Just haven't had the chance, and it's complicated when you work for the agency.
Ah,
Um, so we're going to be doing a bit more traveling as we retire.
okay.
So probably a little bit more than we have in the past.
Any particular places you have in mind that you want to go with retirement?
We're going to have a trip to Chicago in the summer in August to
Mm-hmm.
see Oasis, the concert
Ah.
that Oasis is having at Soldier Field.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're going to have another concert in July in Interlaken. Going to
Oh.
see going to see America,
Ah.
that old time band.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're going to probably do some driving trips around the country, and we might go into Canada as well.
Awesome.
Yeah,
So you were in the military.
I was.
Which branch?
I was in the Michigan Army National Guard, and
Ah.
I was the I was attending Michigan State University. I was in the National Guard, and I
Mm-hmm.
was the first student pulled out of school to go off to the Gulf War.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so I was on the front page of the student newspaper, and matter of fact, that's one way my wife got to see me before we ever met. Was I was on the
Oh.
article, and and she ended up working at the cafeteria where I had worked, and
Mm-hmm.
they had that picture and article up in the cafeteria while I was off fighting in the war. So
So
she
do you
knew.
do you draw any of your experiences into your fantasy worlds?
Oh, absolutely. Especially in the epic fantasy stuff, I
Mm-hmm.
I, I referenced Marines and military structures for like the crews on the sky ship,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's something that I definitely draw on to make the fighting scenes a bit more realistic, to add a little bit of real world flavor to a fantasy world. And then my character, Rusty Bones, he was
Mm-hmm.
in the. I basically had his career similar to mine, in that he went off to fight in the Gulf War as well,
Okay.
and so that's something where I definitely draw on. I mean, he was a bit more physical specimen than I am, say. He was a sniper, I was a truck driver, so a
Oh, okay.
little more glamorous for him. little safer for me.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think you took the safer, definitely the
Definitely.
safer route. Although truck driver, not necessarily a safe
Well,
job.
yeah. As they discovered in the Iraq War and then the Afghan War, transportation can be a very dangerous
Mm,
field.
yeah, literally a
L-
minefield.
Literally, yes. And with IEDs coming out and
Mhm,
all that sort of stuff. When the Gulf War, we had complete air dominance. We were fighting state to state with Iraq.
okay.
And so we felt a lot safer doing that then.
Mhm,
But obviously, the insurgents found ways to get to the transportation lines. So definitely something that I'm glad I had my time in the Gulf War and not
mhm.
subsequent to that.
Would you go back if they called you up?
I've done my time. I'm not quite in shape for war fighting is for a younger generation.
So you've got a wife and 2 dogs and a kitty cat.
Well, the kitty cat passed on a couple of years ago. So
Aw,
we're down to two dogs.
2
And
dogs.
yeah, two Shiba Inus. They have great personalities. They're very distinct. Yuna is our young female. She's very food oriented, and we
Mm.
just discovered that she has a pancreas that's a little sensitive, so we can't give her the kind of food that she wants, which causes some conflict.
Mhm.
And then our older male, he's like 12 now, and
Oh, wow.
he's the cranky old man.
Do they get put in your stories?
Um, yes, in the epic fantasy series, I where we have characters that can talk to the animals and
Okay.
animals can talk back to them. I One of the main characters is a wolf, and
Mm.
so Shiba Inus have a lot of well, they're an ancient breed, so they have a lot
Mhm.
of instincts that are similar to wolves. They're
Ah.
not nearly as big or dangerous, although they think they are, but but they kind of look like and they act like wolves at times, and they have that kind of pack mentality. So,
Okay.
yeah, the wolf character in Shadow Fang is
Mhm.
based a lot on my observations of Akira and other dogs that we've had.
So
But
what got you started writing fantasy?
wow, okay, so I was a my mom actually took my brother and I to the libraries way back when we were kids. We didn't have a whole lot of money, so she would always take us to the library. We'd check out a bunch of books, read them, and then take them back in and get some more the next week. She was a voracious reader. I think she is probably the most well-read person I've ever met, and she never attended college. You
Well,
know,
hey.
yeah, she was a huge fan of westerns, but she would voraciously read everything,
Mm.
including fantasy. And I started on westerns because that's what she read, and I always kind of found myself in the stories that talked about the Native Americans and stuff.
Mm.
So then I kind of gravitated to reading fantasy and other types of genres that explored different cultures and peoples and such. And I was a huge fan of Tolkien
Mm.
and Andre Norton and Anne McCaffrey. And so
Okay.
when I saw those books and I wanted to write books like that, and I wanted to do it ever since I was 12 when we started playing Dungeons and Dragons with my mom. My
Yep,
mom
yep.
played with us, and I loved being the dungeon master where you could make up the stories and create the adventures for people to go on.
Mhm.
And I often found myself creating these whole worlds and I'd be more interested in creating the worlds than playing in them. You know,
Ah.
just
Mhm.
having the backgrounds, the mythologies, the stories of how things came to be. And so when I got into my early 40s, I started writing, you know, as a hobby, a blog. I wrote a blog called Dead Man Blog or Undead Man Blogging,
Oh. Mhm,
and
mhm.
that blog became the the stories for Omega Rising, Omega Falling, and Bones Wolf.
Okay.
And essentially, I had a bunch of friends. I wove them into the story so that they all read along just to see what their characters were doing, and also it was an opportunity for me just to kind of test out and see how I like, you know, sitting down and trying to write every day.
Mhm.
And I did that for several years, and then I got back into to writing on other kinds of stories. Um, so Omega Rising was my first book that I ever wrote. And I sat
Okay.
down to write a full story, and I did that in 2010.
Mm.
And I didn't know anything about self-publishing. I didn't know how to go about doing anything. I found a vanity press,
Okay.
uh, published it through that with a cover that my wife had done,
Mhm.
and I had friends help me edit it. It was not so great. Didn't make a lot of money.
Okay.
Um, but then what I did is in 2000, well, so I would say 13, 14, 15, I caught
Mhm.
the bug to write for the Maiden song,
Mhm.
or the Hunted Maiden and the Seedling song. And there I learned enough to go ahead and say, okay, I need a professional editor and I need
Mhm.
a professional cover artist. And went about, I went to a couple of different conventions, met with some authors, figured out a little bit more about how the process worked. And so I was able to get those books published. And then when I did that, I went back to Omega Rising when my dad was ill.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he had kidney cancer, and I was
Mm.
going in for weekly treatments that he was going with.
Mhm.
And while he was doing the treatments, I would be pounding away, editing the book and revising it and bringing it current.
Mhm.
And then when he passed, I published the book with professional editing and a new covers,
Mhm.
and it's done a lot better since.
Yeah, it's amazing what an editor and cover design that really sells the book, but
It does.
also being able to um, give insights into what the book is about. So when people come up to your table, I mean,
Right.
you get up and you talk with everybody, and
Yeah. Learning how to talk about your books in a kind of a pitch, a
hmm
30-second pitch, is definitely a skill and something that I didn't know before I published the epic fantasy. I just kind of was on the impression, well, if I publish this book and on this vanity press, that people will find it somehow and just buy it, right? But that doesn't
hmm
happen. And so learning how to navigate the business of finding events,
hmm
of publicizing yourself on social media, of all the things that it takes to be successful as an independent author,
hmm
is something that's I've enjoyed,
hmm
haven't had the time that I'd want to do while doing the day job.
Ah,
Yeah, this last year didn't do any events up until earlier this month
okay.
because life was happening. My daughter got married, my father-in-law fell ill, my wife came down with some cancer, and so I ended up not having time for anything to do with writing,
Mhm.
publishing, promoting books. And then when um, this month is done, I'll only have 2 more months left to go with the day job, and I'll be able.
Yay!
And then in June, I'll be able to dedicate myself fully to getting back into the author business. So
Well, that'll be great having you back in the author business and being able to retire. That is fantastic.
yeah, we're really blessed that we're being. We've got a little bit of a cushion because of my father-in-law's passing, and some money
Mhm.
that comes from his estate is going to help us smooth that transition out. So
Well, that certainly helps.
it does.
Well, I can't wait to see you again in person, live and in person at an event. So I will
Uh,
definitely be seeing you at the end of June.
yes, I'm looking forward to it as well. I'm looking forward to seeing all the friends that I know that are going to be there, like Diana and Heather. Is Heather going to be there?
Yes, Heather's going to be there.
Awesome. Yeah,
Yep.
I'm looking forward to seeing a lot of the folks that we've known together, and seeing what new things they have, and seeing whether hopefully I can have Omega Falling done, but I'm not counting on it just yet. It might be done, but it might not be published at that point.
Yeah, I was gonna say getting it to that final push of being published. That'll
Yeah,
be a quick turnaround after your retirement.
yeah, I'm about 80% done with the story,
Okay.
and I do a lot of editing as I go, but I know I'm
Okay.
going to have to go back through everything and just, you know, fix the things that have crept up into the story, tighten
Mhm.
things down, and then get it off to the editor. So all that's going to take some time.
Yep. Well, I will definitely see you at the end of June though, and we're gonna have a great time.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it. I'm glad you'll be back up in Michigan because I know you're down in South Carolina now.
Yep.
How
Enjoying
are
the
you
warmer
enjoying?
weather.
How are you enjoying it?
Oh, I loving it.
That's cool.
Loving it, but I do enjoy getting back to Michigan so that I can see people and friends and
Yeah.
you know, June, the end of June will be a great time of year because the weather should be warmer.
Yes. Even in Michigan, it should be nice and warm at the end of June.
So we'll I'll be seeing you. We've got a total of 53 authors, five book centric vendors, and just about 280 titles will be there.
Wow, that's a nice mix.
That's
I'm
a
looking
nice
forward
mix.
to I'm looking forward to seeing all these new people too that I haven't
Yeah,
maybe met before.
there's
So
there's a few of them. So I will
awesome.
see you in June, and thank you for taking time out of your weekend to come on here and chat about your books.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm super excited for the event and can't wait for June for a number of reasons.
Yeah, retirement might be one of them.
Just a little bit.
Thanks, Doug.
Thank you.